Let's talk about something a lot of people don't want to hear. Why your vision board might actually be working against you. Because let's be honest for a second. It's January 2026, right? You got the board, you got the affirmations, you got the playlist that makes you feel like a main character in a redemption arc. The vision board, beautiful. Chef's kiss. You got the tropical beaches, you got the luxury cars, the aesthetic offices, the calm, confident versions of who all seems well rested and unbothered. So why does it feel like in 3 weeks your brain's already finding you? Why does your motivation evaporate? Why does procrastination suddenly feel heavier? Why do you start side-eyeing the very goals you were excited about? Most people will tell you vision boards fail because you didn't make a plan. They'll say, you need deadlines, you need structure, you need discipline. But I want to tell you something much more uncomfortable and much more honest. Your vision board isn't failing because it lacks strategy. It's failing because it's all light. It's a fantasy version of you that doesn't exist yet, and the version of you that does exist, your shadow, is terrified of it. And before you tense up, let's slow this down. When I say shadow, I'm not talking about something evil or broken. I'm talking about the subconscious part of you that values safety over everything else. The part of you that learned very early on how to survive. We've talked about this before, especially if you've seen my shorts. Laziness isn't real. Procrastination isn't failure. A lot of what we shame ourselves for is actually protection. Your shadow is simply protection. To your conscious mind, that vision board is a dream, but to your shadow, it's a death threat to your current identity. Let's look at the biology of this for a second. Your brain has one primary job: to keep you alive until tomorrow. To your amygdala, new equals dangerous. When you look at a vision board and see a version of yourself that is unrecognizable, your nervous system doesn't see a promotion or a glow up. It sees a predator. It sees a loss of the predictable environment that has kept you breathing this long. This is why you feel that physical ick or that sudden wave of exhaustion when you sit down to work on a big dream. It's a literal biological brake pedal being slammed to the floor. See, most self-help gurus tell you to push through the pain. But when you push through a nervous system response without acknowledging it, you're essentially traumatizing yourself into productivity. You are teaching your brain that growth is a violent act. And guess what? The brain is a master of rebellion. It will win. It will find a way to make you sick or tired or distracted just to get you back to the safety of the couch. This is the loop we have to break, not by pushing harder, but by communicating better. Because that board doesn't just represent new things, it represents endings. Endings to familiar coping mechanisms, endings to predictable routines, endings to identities you've learned how to survive inside of. So when you put a photo of a stage on your vision board, your light sees impact, purpose, legacy. But your shadow sees judgment, exposure, and the possibility of being misunderstood. When you put a photo of a fit body on your board, your light sees health and confidence. But your shadow sees discipline, discomfort, and the loss of comfort foods that help you regulate your nervous system. When you put a photo of a thriving business, your light sees freedom. But your shadow sees instability, responsibility, and the risk of failure becoming very public. Think about the high achiever shadow. This is the one people rarely talk about. See, if your vision board is full of rest, slow mornings, and peace, but your current identity is built on being the reliable one or the hard worker, your shadow is going to fight that peace with everything it has. Why? Because to your shadow, being lazy means being worthless. If you aren't producing, you aren't safe. So you put a picture of a spa day, but the moment you sit down to relax, your brain screams at you to check your emails. That's not a lack of discipline. That's a survival program running in the background. And until you honor that shadow, your brain will continue to self-sabotage. Not because it hates you, but because it's trying to keep you safe in a life you've already proven you can survive. And if this is landing for you, if you feel that oh damn moment happening, this is exactly the kind of work we do here. So pause for 1 second and subscribe here to Duality of the Muse. Not because this is motivational content, but because this channel is about becoming blissfully balanced with who you are without any self-betrayal. Now let's go deeper. There's a popular phrase people love to repeat: your frustrations are instructions, meaning the things you hate point to what you want. That's true, but it's incomplete. I want to offer you something sharper, something more confronting. Resistance is revealing. The places where you stall, avoid, or sabotage isn't random. They're data. So here's the exercise most people skip. So we're going to just temporarily dismantle the ego. We're going to put it back together, I promise you. I want you to think of your biggest goal of 2026. Not the one you say out loud, the one you actually want. Now ask yourself this question slowly, honestly, without trying to sound evolved. What is the hidden benefit of staying exactly where I am? Because there's always a benefit. If you never launched a business, you never have to fail. The hidden benefit is protecting your ego from disappointment. If you stay single, you never have to be vulnerable. The hidden benefit is emotional control. If you don't post your work, your face, your voice, you never have to be seen incorrectly. So that hidden benefit is safety through invisibility. We have to acknowledge that our current bad habits were once our best solutions. If you struggle with overeating, your shadow used that as a way to ground you when you felt out of control. If you struggle with social media addiction, your shadow used that to numb you from a reality that felt too heavy to carry. When we mock our shadows or call them weak, we are mocking the very parts of us that stayed awake at night to make sure we survived our hardest years. Integration starts with a thank you before it moves to a change. Your shadow is very smart. It will trade fulfillment for familiarity every single time if you don't renegotiate the terms. And this is the part people get wrong. Your shadow is not the enemy. It's a bodyguard that's been on duty for decades. And you don't fire a bodyguard. You give them a new assignment. You thank that part of you for keeping you safe when safety was the priority. And then you explain that the threat has changed. That's where integration begins. Not domination, not forcing positivity, not pretending fear doesn't exist. Integration. Most people respond to resistance by doubling down on aesthetics. Another planner, another board, another pretty quote. But we're not here for more fantasy. We're here for alignment. The duality contract has two parts. The first is the light. This is where you clearly name what you want without shrinking it to sound responsible. Not more money, but I want to work from my porch without anxiety. Not better health, but I want to feel strong and capable in my body. This is the future identity you are choosing. The second part is the shadow, and this is where it gets real. You ask yourself, who do I have to let die to live this life? Not literally, but symbolically. The people pleaser who can't say no. The version of you who stays silent to be liked. The observer who waits to be chosen instead of choosing themselves. You cannot bring old survival identities into a new environment and expect peace. Let's get specific with a case study of duality. Imagine someone, let's call her Maya, who puts financial abundance on her board. Her light sees travel, giving back, and security. But Maya grew up in a household where money was the root of every argument. To her shadow, more money actually means more conflict. Her shadow believes that as she becomes wealthy, she will become a target for resentment from her family, or she'll become one of those people she was taught to dislike. So Maya sets the goal, but she never quite finishes the business plan. She forgets to send the invoices. She overspends the moment her savings hits a certain number. This is the shadow at work. For Maya to succeed, her duality contract has to address the conflict. She has to say, I am choosing abundance, and I am also choosing to believe that I can be wealthy and still be a kind, connected person. She has to give her shadow permission to be rich and safe at the same time. Then comes the integration statement, the promise that keeps you honest. It sounds like this. I am moving towards this life. When I feel the urge to self-sabotage, I will recognize it as my shadow trying to protect me. I will acknowledge this fear. I will honor my shadow, and I will choose my light anyway. That's blissful balance, not erasing fear, but leading it. Now let's talk about how this actually works in real life. A vision board is static. A duality contract is alive. So when your shadow gets loud, and it will, you don't punish yourself. You negotiate. This is what I call the safety minimum. If your goal is to work out 5 days a week and your shadow is overwhelmed, you don't quit. You say, all right, we're doing 5 minutes today. That's it. If your goal is consistency and your nervous system is fried, you don't collapse into shame. You give yourself the smallest action that keeps the identity intact. You're not being lazy, you're training trust. This trust is the currency of the soul. Think of your shadow like a rescue dog. If you take a rescue dog and immediately throw it into a loud, crowded park, it's going to bite, right? Not because it's a bad dog, but because it's terrified. You have to sit in the driveway first. Then you got to walk it to the end of the block. You show that dog over and over again that the world isn't going to end if you turn the corner. Every time you honor a safety minimum, every time you do that 5-minute workout instead of skipping it, you're telling your shadow, see, we did the thing and we didn't die. We're still here and we are still safe. Over time, the shadow stops fighting the vision board. It starts helping you build it. It stops being the anchor. It starts being the engine because it finally trusts that you aren't going to abandon it in the pursuit of better. Here's the truth most people won't say out loud. 2026 isn't the year you become perfect. It's the year you become whole. that light that dreams, the shadow that protects, working together. We've spent so much of our lives trying to curate a perfect version of ourselves for the world to see, but the most magnetic people aren't the ones who are perfect. They're the ones who are whole. They are the people who walk into a room and you could feel that they aren't hiding anything from themselves. They've looked into their own darkness and invited it to tea. They've realized that the muse doesn't just live in the sunshine, she lives in the depths too. So as you look at your board for 2026, don't just look at the glitter, look at the grit. Accept the fact that you will be scared, you will be tired, and you will occasionally want to retreat. And instead of letting that stop you, let that be the proof that you are finally doing something real. You aren't just decorating a board, you are renovating a life. And renovations are messy before they are beautiful. Stop trying to outrun the parts of you that are scared. Sit down with them, have a conversation. And if you're ready to stop the cycle of January motivation followed by February shame, comment integrated below and let me know you're done fighting yourself and you're ready to lead yourself. This is Duality of a Muse, where we honor the shadow, choose the light, and build lives that don't require self-betrayal to maintain. And if you want me to walk you through a live shadow audit for your personal goals, just say so in the comments. We'll go deep together. I'm Ebony, and I'll see you next time.